The Great Hall of the Galactic Council stretched across 3 kilometers of polished crystal. Representatives from 200 species sat in their designated zones, breathing different atmospheres and existing at different temperatures. In the center stood Ambassador Tay, the first human to address the council. Tay looked small compared to the massive creatures around him. The Vextar warlord Krelith towered 4 meters tall, his scales reflecting the light like black mirrors. The insectoid Resh clicked their mandibles in what passed for laughter among their kind. Even the peaceful Luminar floated in their containment spheres with an air of superiority. "People of the galaxy," Tay began, his voice amplified across the hall. "Humanity comes seeking friendship. We offer trade, knowledge, and partnership." Several delegates made sounds of approval. Earth had resources. Their star system contained rare minerals. Their science, while primitive by galactic standards, showed potential. However, Tay continued, and his voice grew colder, "I must deliver a warning. We seek peace above all things. But if anyone attacks our people, if anyone harms our colonies, they will face complete annihilation." The hall erupted in sounds that the translation matrix interpreted as laughter. The Resh clicked louder. A Drachner representative made a rumbling sound that shook the floor. Even the diplomatic Luminar seemed amused. Krelith stood from his seat. "Little human," he said, his voice like grinding stones, "your world has barely left its own star system. You have 30 colonies and perhaps 100 ships. The Vextar Empire alone commands 10,000 warships. Your warning is noted and dismissed." Tay did not flinch. "The warning stands. Attack humans and face the consequences." He left the hall to scattered amusement. The council secretary, a being named Vrel, made a note in the official record. It read, "Human ambassador delivered standard territorial warning. Threat assessment, minimal." Far from the council chambers, Commander Hana stood on the bridge of the Earth defense ship Vigilance. Her screens showed the border between human space and Vextar territory. For weeks, she had watched Vextar ships gathering in larger numbers. "They're positioning for something," said her tactical officer, a young man named Han. "3 battle groups now, Commander, all facing our mining colonies." Hana zoomed in on the largest Vextar vessel. It bristled with weapons, each one capable of destroying a small moon. "Have we heard from Ambassador Tay?" "Yes, Commander." The council laughed at his warning. Hana closed her eyes briefly. She had known it would go this way. Humanity always looked weak to those who had never seen them fight. "Continue monitoring. And Han, send a message to Admiral Nari on Earth. Tell her the situation is developing." On the edge of human space, the colony of Titan's Edge floated peacefully. 3,000 people worked the mining stations, extracting valuable crystals from the asteroid field. They were miners, engineers, and families who had chosen the frontier life. Gina supervised the eastern mining platform. She was checking the day's production reports when the alarms started screaming. Her screen filled with red warnings. "Vextar ships," someone shouted. "Dozens of them." Gina ran to the command center. Through the viewports, she could see them coming. Massive black warships that blotted out the stars. The station commander, an older man named Borum, was already on the communication channels. "This is Titan's Edge colony to approaching Vextar fleet. We are a civilian mining operation. We are unarmed. Please state your intentions." The response came in Krelith's grinding voice. "Humans, you will warn that you exist at our pleasure. This sector belongs to the Vextar Empire. You will be removed. We're civilians." Borum shouted, "There are children here. You should have stayed on your primitive world." Gina watched in horror as the Vextar ships opened fire. Energy beams cut through the mining platforms like they were made of paper. Explosions blossomed in the void. She could hear screaming over the communication network. She grabbed a recording device and started transmitting. Her hands shook, but her voice stayed steady. "This is Gina Park of Titan's Edge. The Vexstar are attacking our colony without provocation. We are unarmed civilians. They are murdering us. Someone has to know. Someone has to remember." The command center shook. Alarms wailed. Through the viewport, she saw the other platforms exploding one by one. "To anyone receiving this," Gina continued, tears streaming down her face, "tell Earth what happened here. Tell them the Vexstar killed us all. Tell them." The transmission cut off as Titan's Edge colony ceased to exist. The recording reached Earth 16 hours later. It played in the United Earth Command Center, in the Galactic Council chambers, and on every news feed across human space. The galaxy watched Gina's final words. They saw the Vexstar ships destroying unarmed civilians. Some species expressed sympathy. The Luminers sent official condolences. The Peaceful Arathi offered humanitarian aid. The Vexstar Empire issued a statement claiming the colony had been in disputed territory. Krelith appeared on galactic networks, his black scales gleaming. The humans were warned. They chose not to listen. Let this be a lesson to all who challenge Vexstar supremacy. On Earth, in a bunker deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, Admiral Nari watched the recording for the 7th time. Around her, the command staff sat in silence. They had all seen the images. 3,000 dead. Children, families, workers. All killed for being in the wrong place. NAR. I stopped the recording on Gina's face. The young woman's last words echoed in the silent room. "Tell them what happened here." "Ma'am," said Captain Wu quietly. "Your orders?" Nari stood. She was a small woman, barely 160 centimeters tall. But when she spoke, everyone listened. "Activate Protocol Omega. Recall all deep space units. Decrypt the hidden fleet protocols. Arm every satellite, every station, every ship." She paused. "And someone get Ambassador Tay on the line. Tell him his warning has been validated. Now we show them what it means." Across human space, millions of people stopped what they were doing. They watched the memorial broadcasts for Titan's Edge. They saw the faces of the dead. And they remembered something that the galaxy had forgotten. Humans had conquered their own world before reaching for the stars. They had survived ice ages, plagues, and wars that killed billions. They had climbed to the top of Earth's food chain, not by being the biggest or the strongest, but by being the most relentless. The galaxy had made a terrible mistake. They had attacked humanity's children. Now they would learn what happened when you awakened a sleeping predator. The cargo ship Morning Star drifted through deep space like thousands of other human vessels. Its hull showed signs of age, and its engines hummed with the steady rhythm of commercial travel. The Vexstar scouts that passed it barely gave it a second look. Just another human merchant ship, they thought. Nothing important. They were wrong. Inside the Morning Star, Captain Wu sat in a command chair that looked nothing like a merchant captain's station. Around him, tactical displays showed every Vexstar position within 50 light years. His crew wore military uniforms, and the cargo holds contained enough weapons to level a small planet. "Admiral Nari's signal received, Captain," said his communications officer. "Protocol Omega is active." Wu nodded. "Drop the disguise. Power up weapon systems. And send the activation codes to every sleeper ship in the sector." Across the hull of the Morning Star, panels slid away to reveal missile batteries. The aging engine signature vanished, replaced by the powerful hum of military-grade drives. In 60 seconds, the cargo ship transformed into a warship bristling with weapons. And it was not alone. Throughout human space, hundreds of ships dropped their disguises. Cargo vessels became destroyers. Mining ships revealed hidden railguns. Even passenger liners opened concealed weapon bays. The Vextar had thought humanity possessed perhaps 100 military ships. They were about to discover the real number was closer to 3,000. On Earth, Ambassador Tay stood in Admiral Nari's command center. He watched the displays light up as the hidden fleet revealed itself. His hands trembled slightly. "I tried to warn them," he said quietly. Nari glanced at him. "You did your job perfectly, Ambassador." They chose not to listen. She turned to her staff. Status report. A young officer named Yuna read from her screen. All fleet elements responding. 97% of hidden assets are active and ready. Deep space stations have armed their weapons. Satellite networks are online. Casualties from Titan's Edge. Confirmed 3,000 dead, Admiral. No survivors. Nari's face hardened. "Very well. Broadcast the declaration on all channels. I want every species in the galaxy to hear this." Tay stepped up to the communication array. He had delivered one warning to the Council. Now he would deliver another. "This is Ambassador Tay of the United Earth Government. 16 hours ago, the Vextar Empire attacked and destroyed the civilian colony of Titan's Edge. 3,000 unarmed men, women, and children were murdered without provocation. We warned the galaxy what would happen if our people were harmed. That warning is now fulfilled. As of this moment, a state of war exists between humanity and the Vextar Empire. We will not stop until either they surrender completely or their empire ceases to exist. To all other species, do not interfere. This is our response to those who attack human children." The message played across every galactic channel. In the council chambers, delegates watched in stunned silence. Some species began immediate evacuation of systems near human space. The wise ones remembered that Earth was a death world, and death worlds produce survivors. On the Vextar border, Commander Hana received her orders with grim satisfaction. The Vigilance had been watching and waiting for weeks. Now it was time to move. "All ships," she transmitted to her battle group, "advance to Vextar space. Target their military installations first. If they fire on civilians, we will respond in kind against their colonies. Make sure they understand the rules." A tactical officer Han pulled up the enemy positions. "Commander, the Vextar have 3 times our numbers in this sector." Hannah smiled. It was not a pleasant expression. "They're also predictable. They fight like they train rigid formations, standard tactics, by-the-book strategy. We fight like humans, which means creatively, ruthlessly, and with absolutely no mercy for those who kill our children." The Vigilance surged forward, followed by 20 other warships that had been hiding in the asteroid fields and gas giants. The Vextar sensors finally detected them, but by then it was too late. Human ships moved faster and struck harder than the Vextar had thought possible. Halfway across the galaxy, a Vextar intelligence officer named Gorath sat in his analysis chamber. He'd been monitoring human communications since the Titan's Edge attack. What he discovered made his scales crawl with fear. The humans had been planning for this. Not for war with the Vextar specifically, but for war with anyone. Their entire society was built on layers of preparation. Every civilian ship had military conversion protocols. Every colony had hidden weapons. Every citizen received basic combat training. Gorath pulled up Earth's history files. He read about their world wars, their nuclear standoffs, their centuries of constant conflict. He saw how they had nearly destroyed themselves a dozen times, but always pulled back from the edge. They had learned to live with the possibility of annihilation. "They're not like us," he whispered to his empty chamber. "We evolved on a kind world where resources were plentiful. They evolved on a planet that tried to kill them every day. They didn't become peaceful by forgetting how to fight. They became peaceful by becoming so good at fighting that they scared themselves. He tried to send a warning to the Vextar High Command. The communication was intercepted and dismissed as cowardice. Krelith himself sent a response. The humans will learn their place. We have already destroyed one of their colonies. We will destroy more until they submit. Dulrath deleted his files and began preparing his personal escape vessel. He had seen enough. The Vextar Empire had just signed its own death warrant. Captain Sora commanded the civilian transport Hope's Journey. She had been carrying colonists to a new world when the news of Titan's Edge reached her. Now her 300 passengers sat in escape pods, already launched toward the nearest friendly station. Sora stood alone on her bridge, looking at the Vextar battleship that had just entered the system. It was hunting for human ships to destroy. It would find one. "This is Captain Sora to Vextar vessel," she transmitted. "You killed 3,000 civilians at Titan's Edge. I am one civilian. Let's see if the trade is fair." She programmed the ship's navigation computer with a single command: intercept course at maximum speed. The Hope's Journey was old and slow by military standards, but it had powerful engines designed for long-distance travel. And it was about to become a missile. The Vextar ship detected her approach and fired warning shots. Sora ignored them. She pushed the engines past their safety limits, feeling the ship shake and groan around her. The Vextar fired again, this time to destroy, but she was already too close and moving too fast. The Hope's Journey struck the Vextar battleship at a significant fraction of light speed. The explosion could be seen from 3 star systems away. Both ships ceased to exist in an instant. News of Sora's sacrifice spread through the human fleet. Across every channel, captains sent the same message: for Titan's Edge, for Sora, for all our dead. Admiral Nari watched the reports flooding in. Human ships were attacking Vextar positions across a dozen systems. Some won through superior tactics. Some won through sheer determination. A few lost, but they made sure to take the enemy with them. "They're learning," said Captain Wu, now commanding a task force near the Vextar inner systems. "The enemy is learning that we don't fight fair. We don't fight for glory. We fight to win." Nari agreed. "Make sure they learn one more thing. Send a message to Krelith directly. Tell him we're coming for him. Tell him we're coming for his homeworld. And tell him that when we arrive, we'll give him the same mercy he gave to Titan's Edge." The message was sent. Krelith received it in his war chamber, surrounded by advisors who suddenly looked much less confident than they had a week ago. The galaxy watched and learned what it meant to anger humanity. They were about to learn much more. The Vextar called for reinforcements from across their empire. Warships that had been patrolling distant borders rushed toward human space. Within 2 weeks, Krelith assembled a fleet of over 5,000 vessels. It was the largest military force the Vextar had ever gathered in one place. They expected it to be enough. They were wrong. Pilot Jun sat in the cockpit of his fighter, floating in the debris field of a destroyed space station. Around him, the wreckage of both human and Vextar ships drifted in silence. He had been there for 6 hours, watching and waiting. His computer detected the Vextar patrol before his eyes did. 3 cruisers, moving in standard formation through the debris field. They were searching for survivors and resources. They would find neither. Jun activated his targeting computer and began calculating. The debris pieces around him were not random. He had spent hours placing them in specific positions, using his fighter's small manipulator arm to nudge asteroids and ship fragments into precise orbits. Now those calculations would pay off. He fired his engines for exactly 3 seconds, sending a chunk of destroyed hull plating tumbling toward the Vextar formation. It seemed random, just more debris in a field full of wreckage. But Jun had calculated the angles perfectly. The debris struck a smaller piece at exactly the right point. That piece ricocheted into another. Like dominoes made of metal and death, the chain reaction spread through the field. Chunks of hull, pieces of destroyed ships, even small asteroids began moving in a carefully orchestrated pattern. The Vextar. Cruisers tried to evade, but Jun had counted on that too. Every evasive maneuver pushed them into another piece of debris. Explosions rippled across their hulls as metal struck at impossible velocities. Within 3 minutes, all 3 cruisers were crippled and venting atmosphere. Jun transmitted the engagement to Fleet Command. This is Pilot Jun. 3 enemy cruisers disabled using debris field tactics. Ammunition expended, 0. Moving to next position. Across the battle zones, human forces fought with the same creative brutality. They used gravity wells as weapons, sending enemy ships tumbling into planets. They hacked Vextar communication systems and fed false orders that sent fleets to empty coordinates. They even weaponized mathematics, calculating trajectories that no sane pilot would attempt but that humans executed perfectly. Lieutenant Mina led a special operations team aboard the Vextar command station Darkspire. They had approached in a captured Vextar transport, wearing stolen uniforms and broadcasting fake identification codes. The Vextar guards had waved them through without question. Now, Mina and her team moved through the station's maintenance tunnels. They were small for Vextar, but perfectly sized for humans. Another advantage the enemy had not considered. Target is 3 levels down, whispered her tech specialist, a young woman named Era, the quantum communication hub. If we take it out, this entire sector goes dark. Mina checked her weapon and nodded. Remember, we're not here to kill everyone. We're here to send a message. Disable the hub, leave our calling card, and get out. They reached the communication center without raising an alarm. The Vextar technicians inside barely had time to react before Mina's team stunned them with electromagnetic pulse weapons. Era went to work on the quantum hub, her fingers flying across alien controls. This is beautiful technology, Era said, even as she systematically destroyed it. Really elegant design. Shame we have to wreck it. They should have thought of that before attacking civilians, Mina replied. The quantum hub exploded in a shower of sparks and exotic particles. Throughout the sector, Vextar ships suddenly found themselves unable to communicate with each other or with high command. They were blind and isolated. Mina left a simple message, spray-painted on the wall in Vextar script, for Titan's Edge. Her team escaped before reinforcements arrived, leaving the Vextar to wonder how humans had penetrated one of their most secure stations. The answer would have horrified them. Humans were simply better at sneaking, lying, and sabotage. Thousands of years of warfare against each other had taught them every dirty trick in existence. Commander Day commanded a fleet of stealth destroyers that the Vextar did not know existed. His ships used technology that bent light and radiation around their hulls, making them invisible to most sensors. They had been positioning themselves for weeks, slowly creeping through Vextar space. Now they floated in orbit around the Vextar homeworld itself. They looked at the planet below. 4 billion Vextar lived on that world. Cities sprawled across 3 continents. From orbit, he could see the lights of their civilization spreading like a web across the surface. He opened a channel directly to Krelith's command center. Warlord Krelith, this is Commander Day of the United Earth Forces. Look up. On the planet below, alarms began screaming. Vextar sensors finally detected the human ships that had been hiding in their system for days. 30 stealth destroyers, each one carrying enough weapons to devastate a continent. They continued, his voice cold and precise. You destroyed Titan's Edge. You killed 3,000 civilians. You wanted to teach us our place in your empire. Instead, you taught us something else. You taught us that mercy is wasted on those who show none. Krelith appeared on the communication screen, his black scales pale with fear. "You would not dare. The Council would never allow. The Council is not here. Your fleet is scattered across a dozen systems, fighting our forces. Your communication networks are destroyed. You are alone and defenseless." They paused. "We could destroy your homeworld right now. We could do to 4 billion Vextar what you did to 3,000 humans. We have the weapons, the position, and the justification." Krella said nothing. Around him, his advisors stared at screens showing the human ships in orbit. They had believed the Vextar Empire was invincible. They had believed humans were primitive and weak. Both beliefs had just shattered. "But we won't," they said. "Do you know why? Because we are not you. We do not murder civilians to prove our strength. We do not destroy defenseless populations. We are better than that. We have to be, because if we were not, we would have destroyed ourselves long ago." He let that sink in for a moment. "However, your military forces are legitimate targets. Surrender now, completely and unconditionally, or we will dismantle your empire ship by ship, station by station, until nothing remains but the memory of what happens when someone attacks humanity." On the Vextar homeworld, in command centers and government halls, the leaders of the empire faced the impossible choice. They could fight and be destroyed, or they could surrender to a species they had dismissed as primitive just weeks ago. Krellith looked at the human ships on his screen. He thought of his fleet scattered and burning across the galaxy. He thought of his communication networks destroyed, his border worlds occupied, his military forces outfought at every turn by an enemy that seemed to anticipate their every move. Most of all, he thought of the young woman named Gina, broadcasting her final message as his ships destroyed her colony. He had ordered that attack to teach humans fear. Instead, he had awakened something far worse than fear. He had awakened their fury. "We surrender," Krella said, his voice barely above a whisper. Day nodded. "Wise choice. Transmit your unconditional surrender on all frequencies. Order all Vextar forces to stand down. Any ship that continues to fight will be destroyed without mercy." The transmission went out across the galaxy. The Vextar Empire, which had ruled 100 star systems for 3 centuries, had fallen in less than 3 months. They had attacked a species they thought was weak and discovered instead that they had attacked the most dangerous predators the galaxy had ever seen. On Earth, Admiral Nari watched the surrender broadcast. Around her, the command center erupted in cheers. They had won. Humanity had proven its warning was not empty words. But Nari did not celebrate. She looked at the casualty reports. 10,000 human soldiers dead. 17 colonies damaged. And always forever, the 3,000 civilians of Titan's Edge who had died to teach the galaxy a terrible lesson. "Begin occupation procedures," she said quietly. "And someone send a message to the Galactic Council. Tell them we will be addressing them shortly. Tell them we have much to discuss about the future of this galaxy." The celebration around her quieted. Everyone remembered that the war with the Vextar had been just the beginning. Now came the harder part, making sure it never happened again. The Galactic Council chambers looked different than they had 3 months ago. Half the seats were empty as species evacuated their delegates, fearing they might be next on humanity's target list. Those who remained sat in nervous silence as Ambassador Tay walked to the center platform for the second time. He looked the same as before. Small, unremarkable, dressed in simple clothing. But now when he spoke, the entire galaxy listened. 3 months ago, I stood here and delivered a warning. I told you that humanity sought peace, but that attacking us would bring annihilation. You laughed. Tay's voice echoed through the silent hall. The Vextar Empire no longer laughs. Their fleets are destroyed. Their communication networks are dismantled. Their colonies are occupied by human forces. And all of this happened in 90 days. A Drachner delegate made a rumbling sound. You have proven your point, human. You can destroy those who attack you. But what now? Will you conquer the galaxy? Will you become the new Vexstar, ruling through fear? Tay shook his head. We don't want conquest. We never did. We wanted to be left alone to trade, explore, and build. We still want that. But we also want something else now. What? Asked a Luminar representative. We want you to understand what you're dealing with when you deal with humanity. Colonel Shin stepped forward, carrying a data tablet. He was a military historian, a man who had spent his life studying human conflict. Now he would teach the galaxy what humanity truly was. You see us as a young species, Shin began. You think we achieved space travel recently, and that we are primitive compared to your ancient civilizations. This is partially true. We did reach the stars late, but we were never primitive. He activated a holographic display that showed Earth rotating slowly. Our world is what you call a death world. The gravity is high. The weather is violent. The diseases are numerous. The predators are everywhere. Most species that evolved on death worlds never left them because the effort to survive consumed all their energy. The display zoomed in on various Earth locations. Deserts, jungles, frozen wastelands, deep oceans. Humans conquered all of these environments. We learned to live in places that would kill most of you within hours. We did this not because we were strong, but because we were adaptable. A new image appeared, showing human history from ancient times to the present. Wars, conflicts, and battles stretching back thousands of years. We have been fighting for our entire existence, not just against our environment, but against each other. We have developed more ways to kill than any other species in this galaxy. We have created weapons that could destroy our entire planet. Multiple times, we came close to using them. Then why didn't you? Asked the Resh delegate. Shin smiled grimly. Because we learned something important. We learned that being good at killing is not the same as being good at surviving. We learned that true strength comes from choosing not to kill when you have the power to do so. We became peaceful not because we forgot how to fight, but because we became too good at it. The display showed the Titan's Edge colony before its destruction. Families, children, workers living their daily lives. When the Vexstar attacked this colony, they thought they were punishing a weak species. Instead, they reminded us of something we had tried to forget. They reminded us that in a dangerous galaxy, strength is the only guarantee of peace. Captain Hannah stepped forward next. She had commanded ships in every major engagement of the war. Her uniform showed the signs of battle, and her eyes held the weight of difficult decisions. The Vexstar fought well, she said. Their ships were powerful. Their warriors were brave. But they fought by rules. They followed their training. They did what they were taught. She paused. Humans don't fight by rules. We fight to win. Every time we engaged the Vexstar, we asked ourselves one question. What would they never expect? Then we did that. You fought dishonorably, accused a Vexstar representative who still remained on the council. Hana turned to him. We fought effectively. Honor is a luxury for those who can afford it. Your empire attacked our children. You forfeited any right to expect honorable combat. She pulled up battle reports and showed them to the council. Instances of human pilots using debris as weapons. Special forces teams infiltrating secure stations. Entire strategies built around deception and misdirection. This is how Death World predators fight, Hana explained. We use every advantage. We exploit every weakness. We adapt to every situation. And we never, ever give up. The council absorbed this information in silence. Several species began making notes, updating their threat assessments of humanity. The humans had just taught them a lesson in galactic politics. Never assume weakness means inability to fight. Ambassador Yuna stepped forward last. She was young, barely 30 years old, but she spoke with the authority of someone who had seen the true cost of war. You need to understand our doctrine going forward, she said. Humanity will trade with anyone. We will share knowledge with anyone. We will make friends with anyone who approaches us in good faith. But and this is critical, we will destroy anyone who harms our people. She looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of every delegate. We don't want to be the galaxy's police force. We don't want to conquer you. We don't even want to be feared. But we will be respected. We will be left alone. And if you force us to choose between being liked and being safe, we will choose safety every single time. The Luminar representative floated forward. What happens to the Vexstar now? That depends on them, Yuna replied. We are not monsters. We are occupying their military installations and monitoring their government, but we are not harming civilians. We are actually helping rebuild the infrastructure our forces destroyed. In time, if they prove they can coexist peacefully, we will leave. And if they cannot, then they will remain under our supervision until they can. We broke their empire. We own the consequences of that. But we will not allow them to rebuild their military and threaten anyone again. Krelith himself was brought before the council 3 weeks later. The former warlord looked smaller somehow, diminished by defeat. He stood in the center of the chamber, surrounded by human guards, facing judgment from the galaxy he had terrorized. Warlord Krelith, said the council's chief arbiter, you are charged with the murder of 3,000 civilians at Titan's Edge Colony. You are charged with initiating unprovoked warfare against a peaceful species. You are charged with crimes against sentient life. How do you answer these charges? Krelith looked at the human delegation. He saw Tay, who had warned him. He saw Hannah, whose forces had defeated his fleets. He saw Shin, who had analyzed his every tactical failure. And he saw recordings of Gina, the woman whose final words had condemned his empire. Guilty, he said quietly. I am guilty of all charges. The chamber erupted in surprised sounds. The arbiter called for silence. You admit your guilt without defense? What defense do I have? Krelith asked. I ordered the attack. I ignored the warnings. I believed humans were weak because they seemed peaceful. I was wrong about everything. He turned to face Tay directly. Ambassador, when you stood here and delivered your warning, I laughed. I dismissed you as a primitive from a primitive world. I did not understand that peace is not the same as weakness. I did not understand that the most dangerous species are the ones who choose not to fight until they have no choice. Tay said nothing. He simply watched as the warlord who had killed 3,000 humans accepted his fate. The council will deliberate on sentencing, the arbiter announced. The accused will be held pending our decision. As guards led Krelith away, he passed by Lieutenant Era, who had been part of the team that destroyed his communication networks. She was young, barely out of training, but she had fought in a dozen engagements. Why? Krelith asked her. Why are you helping rebuild our worlds? Why are you feeding our people? Why show mercy to those who showed you none? Era looked at him with eyes that had seen too much death for her age. Because we're not you, she said simply. We're better than that. We have to be. The galaxy watched and learned. The young species from the death world called Earth had proven they could destroy empires. Now they were proving something even more important, that they could choose not to. 5 years passed. The galaxy had changed in ways both visible and invisible. Human ships now traveled freely through space that had once been closed to them. Trade routes connected Earth to 100 different worlds. Cultural exchanges brought alien students to human universities and human artists to alien exhibitions. But underneath the peaceful surface, everyone remembered the war. They remembered what happened when someone attacked humanity's children on the rebuilt Titan's Edge colony. A memorial stood where the old station had once floated. 3,000 names were carved into crystal that caught the light of the distant sun. Captain Wu stood before it with his grandson Quan, a boy of 7 years with curious eyes and endless questions. "Grandpa, why are there so many names?" Quan asked. Wu knelt down to the boy's level. "These are the people who died here. The Vextar attacked them because they thought humans were weak. They thought we wouldn't fight back. But we did fight back? Yes, we fought back hard enough that no one will ever make that mistake again." Quan touched the crystal gently. "Were you in the war?" Wu nodded. "I commanded a ship. I fought in battles across a dozen systems. I did things I'm not proud of, but things that needed to be done." "Did you kill people?" The question hung in the air. Wu looked at his grandson and saw the innocence that the people of Titan's Edge had possessed before their deaths. "Yes, I killed enemy soldiers. I destroyed their ships. But I never killed anyone who wasn't trying to kill us first. And every night since, I remember their faces, and I asked myself if there was another way. Was there? I don't know. But I know this. Because we fought, because we won, you get to grow up in a galaxy that respects human life. That's worth something." They stood in silence for a moment, grandfather and grandson, surrounded by the names of the dead. Then Quan asked, "Will there be another war?" "I hope not. But if there is, we'll be ready." On Earth, Admiral Nari had retired from active duty. She taught at the military academy now, training the next generation of officers. Her classroom was always full, and her students always paid attention. They knew she had commanded the forces that destroyed the Vextar Empire. Today, she was teaching a lesson on strategic deterrence. A young cadet named Rena raised her hand. "Admiral, some people say we were too harsh with the Vextar. They say we could have stopped after defeating their fleet." Nari nodded. "That's a fair question. Let me answer it with another question. Why do you think no one has attacked human colonies in the 5 years since the war?" Rena thought about it. "Because they're afraid of us?" "Partially. But fear fades with time. The real reason is that we proved something. We proved that attacking humans costs more than anyone is willing to pay. We didn't just defeat the Vextar. We dismantled their entire empire in 90 days. We showed the galaxy that we have the capability to do the same to anyone." Another cadet asked, "But we also helped rebuild their worlds. Why do that if we wanted to scare people?" "Because fear alone makes enemies. We wanted to show the galaxy 2 things, that we can destroy those who attack us, and that we will help those who make peace with us. Strength and mercy, used together, create lasting peace." Nari pulled up a map of the galaxy showing human trade routes, defensive positions, and alliance networks. "Look at this. 5 years ago, we had 30 colonies and 100 trading partners. Now we have 200 colonies and trade agreements with 600 species. Our economy is thriving. Our people are safe. And all of it is built on the foundation of what we did to the Vextar. So we became the galaxy's strongest power? No, we became the galaxy's most reliable power. Species trade with us because they know we honor our agreements. They ally with us because they know we protect our allies. And they leave us alone because they know what happens if they don't." In the former Vextar capital, now administered jointly by humans and the reformed Vextar government, Ambassador Yuna walked through markets that had been rebuilt with human aid. Vextar merchants sold goods alongside human traders. Children of both species played in newly constructed parks. A young Vextar approached her nervously. His scales were pale green, marking him as barely an adult. "Ambassador Yuna? I am Krell. I wanted to thank you." Yuna smiled. "Thank me? For what?" "For not destroying us." My father fought in the war. He was on one of the cruisers that your forces disabled. He says your ships could have killed everyone, but you didn't. You captured them instead. We only killed those who gave us no choice, Una replied. Your father surrendered. That made him a prisoner, not an enemy. Krell hesitated, then asked, will you ever leave? Will you let us govern ourselves again? When you're ready. When your government proves it can coexist peacefully with its neighbors. When we're certain that someone like Krellith won't rise to power again. She looked at the young Vextar. I know it's hard living under occupation, but we're not your conquerors. We're your temporary guardians. We broke your empire. We're responsible for making sure something better takes its place. And if we never satisfy you? If you decide we can never be trusted? Una considered the question carefully. Then we've failed. Our goal isn't to rule you forever. It's to help you build a society that doesn't need ruling. But that takes time, trust, and work from both sides. Krell nodded slowly. I'm studying human history. I want to understand how you became what you are. How you learned to balance strength and peace. Then you're doing important work. Understanding is the first step toward coexistence. On the Galactic Council, now relocated to a neutral station, the delegates gathered for a routine session. The chamber was full again. Species that had fled during the war had returned. New members had joined. The galaxy had adapted to the new reality. Ambassador Tay stood to address them, just as he had 5 years ago. But this time, no one laughed. People of the galaxy, he began, I stand before you to reaffirm humanity's commitment to peace. We seek trade, friendship, and cooperation with all species. We have no desire to expand our territory beyond what we need for our growing population. We have no interest in conquest or domination. He paused, and his voice grew harder. But I also stand here to remind you of what we said 5 years ago. Attack humans and annihilation follows. That warning has not changed. It will never change. We will defend our people with every resource at our disposal. We will protect our colonies with overwhelming force. And we will show no mercy to those who target our civilians. A new delegate, representing a species that had recently made contact with the galactic community, asked, Is this not a threat? Are you not demanding submission through fear? Tay shook his head. It's not a threat. It's a promise. We don't want you to submit. We want you to trade, to talk, to build relationships. But we also want you to understand the consequences of aggression. Peace through strength. That is humanity's way. The delegate persisted. But what if there is a misunderstanding? What if an incident occurs by accident? Then we investigate. Then we talk. Then we find a peaceful solution. We're not monsters who attack at the first sign of conflict. But if you attack our children, if you murder our civilians, if you wage war against us, then we will respond with everything we have. There is no misunderstanding in the deliberate destruction of a colony. The Council voted to accept humanity's position. They had little choice. The alternative was to challenge the species that had destroyed an empire in 3 months. And no one was willing to take that risk. After the session, Tay met privately with representatives from the peaceful species. The Lumina, the Orathi, and several others who had opposed the war from the beginning. You've created a strange peace, observed the Lumina delegate. Everyone is afraid to fight, but no one is truly at ease. Tay nodded. It's not perfect, but it's better than war. Before, species like the Vextar could attack anyone weaker with impunity. Now they can't. Now there's a power that will intervene, that will stop them. You've made yourselves the galaxy's police force. No, we've made ourselves the galaxy's deterrent. There's a difference. We don't patrol your space. We don't enforce your laws. We don't tell you how to live. but we exist as a reminder that aggression has consequences. Years later, in a classroom on a human colony world, a teacher told her students about the war. She showed them recordings of Gina's final message. She explained what had happened and why. And she ended with a simple lesson. "We are a peaceful people," she said. "We seek friendship with all species. We trade, we share, we build together. But never forget that we are also the children of Earth, a death world that taught us to survive. We know how to fight. We know how to win. And most importantly, we know when to fight and when to show mercy." A student raised his hand. "Teacher, are we the good guys or the bad guys?" She smiled. "We're humans. We're capable of both great kindness and terrible violence. We choose kindness whenever we can. But when someone forces us to choose violence, we become very, very good at it." Across the galaxy, on 1,000 worlds, similar conversations happened. Parents explained to children why human ships were always welcome in port, but also why no one challenged them. Teachers described the war and its lessons. Historians analyzed the tactics and strategies that had destroyed an empire. And everywhere, the same conclusion was reached. Humanity had warned the galaxy. The galaxy had not listened,